I too am delighted to be able to speak here this evening on this important piece of information, our legislation. And I have to declare that when this went to put to referendum, I opposed it. And I opposed it for very genuine reasons. That it was like getting a flat wheel in a car and you take off 3 wheels. That's what you were doing. You were bringing in this great model that he talked about, wonderful to solve all problems, but in actual fact, it wasn't going to solve anything, because you weren't touching the reason that caused the cut tires. You weren't looking at the engine or anything else. The car wasn't fit for purpose, and that was the problem. It's just a typical, I was going to say, Irish solution to an Irish problem, or a Fine Gael solution to a problem. That's what it was. And great cost of the referendum, everything else. It was useless without real changes that were necessary to remodify the whole situation in the courts. And now, indeed, I want to wish a friend of mine who was due to visit us here today, Johnny Walsh, barrister in Tipperary, was to come up to meet his good friend, Deputy O'Callaghan, and myself, but he's in hospital, so he's not with us this evening. Wish him well. And I'd also to wish our former AG, who is a member of the Court of Appeal, I understand this is what we're talking about, so to wish her well in her new role as well. I'm not anti the judges, as I said. The purpose of the bill is to provide for an increase in the maximum number of ordinary judges on the Court of Appeal from 9 to 15. Another waste of time. You're tickling and scratching at the surface. Totally are. Because I'll give you the figures in a minute, let you know why. Backwards we're going. The explanatory memorandum says, it is clear that the Court of Appeal has a very significant volume of work, and without additional judges, the Court of Appeal could, before too long, be facing a similar level of delay to that which prevailed previously. As it is, the current waiting time of 20 months for civil appeals would be considered problematic in terms of access to justice. And justice delayed is justice denied. That's one of the oldest sayings in the legal sphere of things, but it's very true. And Deputy Healy-Rae stated that already. I mean, it's just unacceptable delays and the whole confusion and going for dates and being put off. And I could never understand that. I attended the High Court in Waterford 10 years ago over somebody had a claim against me in my business. And it was like a month of fine. Welsh Park wouldn't hold the crowd below. And they can hold 12,000, I think, now in Waterford. Everybody was brought to be the case, and only a handful of cases being heard on the day. A full sitting for the week. I was a 4-day sitting, I'm not sure. But sure they got to know that about 20 cases might be held. They're lucky, maybe only 3 or 4, but to bring every case down, it's a racket. It looks like a racket, it walks like a racket, and it is a racket. I hope that Carriera isn't getting across with me. I know she's a practicing barrister, and I wish her as well in her other duties before she came in here. I'm not blaming. It's a system is broken. And it shouldn't be bringing all those people at the cost of it. I am. We're talking about reform. I'm talking about what we should be reforming. Just adding more. I mean, if Galway are going bad in Dáil Éireann, they can add 4 more players to bring it up to 19 to make him beat Kilkenny or Tipperary. I'm not at all. I'm have great respect for her. I'm not saying about it. I'm just saying that adding 5 extra people here is like buying extra hens at the ones you have on the lane right. This is exactly what I said would happen, and indeed what legal commentators like the renowned seat Barrett Tillman, I'm the chair, might know him, of Maynooth University, have also made clear. Anyone could see what is about to happen. They wanted to see, I wanted to care at the time. Indeed, in 2017 and 2018, I asked the Minister for Justice, Charlie Flanagan, to address the ongoing concerns around the inability of the new Court of Appeal to address its persistently high backlog of civil and criminal cases. I asked him here on the floor at all, as well as parliamentary questions. At the time, an analysis of the Court's Services annual report for 2016 by the same Barrett Tillman, lecturer in law at Maynooth University, Department of Law. And he found that without significant reform, the Court of Appeal will be incapable of reducing its judicial backlog. And he put that out in referendum, and he argued that on radio and TV, anywhere that he was asked to argue, and argued very cogently and coherently, and you weren't able to give him answers. But you fooled the people into voting for it, that's what I say. Because many people, as Deputy Healy-Rae and others have said, were so tormented waiting, they thought this was a panacea to everything, and it was a panacea to nothing. That analysis was a forensic deconstruction of the spin that was being peddled regarding the impact that the new Court of Appeal was having on addressing the current backlog of cases. Spin is all across. And, you know, you had no spin machine that time, worth 5 million, but you were good at spinning at the same time. So, I mean, to spin, nothing short of it. At the time, the idea of the new court was being sold to the Irish people. It was touted as a kind of perfect remedy for the massive delays that were afflicting our judicial system. And it had no hope of ever achieving that, ever. Some of us tried to highlight the fact that all this would do, in the absence of more fundamental reform, was to create illusions of progress. And that's what we predicted this. Anyone that would look at a cursory look at what was going on. That position has now been vindicated. Seat Barrier Tillman has shown that in the course of the Court of Appeal's second complete calendar year, with millions spent the number of pending cases, with millions spent on it, the number of pending cases, wait for this, started at 1,814, and by the end of the year, the number of pending cases increased to 1,821. That's up 7. After all the money, and all the hoo-ha, and all the spin, and all the talk, and denying judges, I'm not blaming the judges. I'm saying there's something seriously wrong with the system. Seriously. And, you know, I had students up here today from TYs and Lieutenant Clonmel, but perhaps the first years, they know there's something wrong here, radically wrong here. When up the backlog was going, in spite of that, and you're going to add now, was it 5 or 6 new judges, 6 I think, and without addressing the fundamental problems of the backlog. And they're basic enough to deal with, but you don't seem to want to. As I said, it went up from 1,814 of delay at the start of the year, of backlog, and by the end of the year, the number of pending cases increased to 1,821. So some people laugh it all the way to the bank, but people aren't getting justice that they deserve and are entitled to as citizens in a modern democracy. In other words, there was no net reduction in the number of cases in the backlog in that year that said Tillman carried out his research in a full calendar year. So what's this got? In point of fact, he also highlighted out, C. Tillman did, that there was a 19% decrease in the number of cases disposed of between 2015 and 2016 in the 2-year calendar. A 19% increase. This was predicted by him and by I and by a small few other people during the referendum, but you wouldn't listen. You wouldn't listen. All of these issues raise profound challenges for the operation of this court and the public value for money. Both things. The public value for money does never seem to come into it, and that's gone reckless now. We don't care. We get another firm of accountants to come in and examine it and give them another $500,000 and off we go. I'm all right, Jack. Carry on. They must be addressed and scrutinised without the kind of delays that may arise from an undue sense of deference towards judges. They must. I'm not saying deference towards judges. I'm saying they can't do it all. It's just the system is archaic. It's choked. It's not fit for purpose, and we'll see what's going on. If they're not getting through the backlog, then questions need to be asked about why that is happening year after year, even with additional court facilities at their disposal. And we saw them, and we saw the bill for them as well was quite enormous. But the efficiency is not there. The reasonable conclusion is that more fundamental reform is needed instead of creating another court with the exact same procedural blocks as happening in this case. And I said, children could see that. More judges will not solve the backlog. It is the procedures that are at fault, and they need to be changed, Minister. And that's why I am opposing this bill. I know it's all the political parties are backing it, but they're throwing money at it. We have Minister Ross's bill stuck in the Senate. And I must remark, and you allow me, I suppose, with Moshe Dahul and Carhill, we were here dealing another bill with Minister Ross last year, us rural. We were described as everything. We were filibusters. But there's no order filibuster now. It's held up inside it for months in the Senate. So what is wrong with the media and what is wrong with commentators that they demonise us for representing our people in legislation that was wrecking our rural Ireland, and now a bill that's so badly needed, Minister Ross championed for it, is held up inside in the Senate for days and weeks and months, and not a word of a filibuster. So if you come from Dublin and you're a posh accent and you're a barrister and you're a senator as well or whatever, I'm not criticising any good, maybe good reason for the delay. It's a bad piece of legislation, but I am criticising the media and the people, the commentators, who ridiculed us as backward, and fanned by the Minister of Justice at the time. I know there's none of them there, but they're listening, I hope. Thought she'd be Aishtuck into Shomra. I hope it's not Shomra Culta, they're still there. But fair play is fine play with me. And the people of Tipperary and Kerry and West Cork are entitled to representation, and send us up here for the time being to scrutinise legislation and fight off dastardly legislation. This is where the energy should be put in the government, and we want to apologise for what we've done, because the benefits of it have been seen now. Pubs and institutions and everything closing down, and rural isolation and mental illness, God knows what is the effect, with no impact analysis of the effect. But yet when a bill now has been delayed weeks and weeks and weeks and months, there's not any criticism. So what kind of critics have we? Can we not have? But the people out there know what's going on, and they're not that stupid at all in the country. They can see what's going on. And this piece of legislation is useless, toothless and fruitless. If you don't reform the system, you can appoint all the judges you like, but no good.